Hello everybody, my name is Kai, and welcome back to Warframe. Today's build is the successor to my old Invincible Khora build. In the Citrine's Last Wish update, DE nerfed the interaction between Parasitic Armor and Khora, which made her practically invincible. The old Parasitic Armor would reduce your shields down to 0, but still allow your shields to be regenerated through the Augur Set bonus. This meant that every cast of Whipclaw would give you around 7 shields per cast, but since Parasitic Armor set your max shields value to 0, this would count as a full shield bar, giving you that 1.3 second shield gate. What we lost with Citrine's Last Wish, we gain again through Varuna's helmet ability, Lycath's Hunt, which not only replaces the old invincibility strat, but does it better, giving you a stronger whip, less casting, and of course, making her utterly invincible. But before we get to the build, a quick thanks to all of my patrons over on Patreon who get early access to content like this Nova video. If you would like to join them, the link is in the description down below. Thank you to Bored Platypus, Mad Monk, Scotty Nose, Young Mung, Matt Goat, Airzos, Bad Robot, Jade Rabbit, Shrike, Raycon, Andreas, Minnie, and Sage. You guys are awesome. Thank you for helping make all this possible. And if you feel like sticking around to the end of the video, you will get some information about the 10,000 subs giveaway I'll be doing, so make sure you do just that. Getting on back to Khora, what does Lycath's Hunt do that allows us to become invincible yet again? This ability grants you a 50% chance on headshot kills to generate energy orbs, and a 50% chance on melee kills to generate health orbs, the latter being the important part of this ability. Khora's Whipclaw, her pseudo-exalted first ability, counts as a melee, which means that getting any kills with Whipclaw will also give it a 50% chance to make health orbs, and then Equilibrium turns those health orbs from 50 health into 55 energy. This gives us essentially infinite energy, as every other kill will grant us more energy than the cost of our whip. The actual cost of said whip is 38 energy, which is incredibly expensive for a very heavily spammable ability like Whipclaw, but it is also needed so that we can fully shield gate in a single cast of Whipclaw. Compared again to the old Parasitic strat, with moderate duration builds you would get around 30 seconds of duration on Parasitic, requiring 2 casts per minute essentially. With Lycath though, killing an enemy who is under 5 or more status effects will add 5 seconds to the duration of the ability, meaning that you never need to recast as long as you pay attention to your timer. The base duration is 20 seconds, but the ability has a flat cap of 60 seconds, which is very easy to hit and maintain. Now that you understand the reason why Lycath is better than pre-nerf Parasitic, let's look at her other 3 abilities, starting with Ensnare. Ensnare, also her helmet ability, is what I consider to be one of, if not the best grouping abilities in the entire game. Ensnare will at first bind a single target in chains, before after a very short duration, dragging in all enemies within its radius to said target. It will pull enemies from behind obstacles and does not require line of sight as well. All of these enemies are completely disabled and cannot do anything while under its effects, and it can even be cast onto acolytes, making them a massive joke in the Steel Path, as it renders them completely disabled as well. Ensnare is also very useful for extending the duration of Lycath's Hunt, as you can group up a massive area of enemies and then prime them all before killing them with Whipclaw to instantly reset your duration to 60. But besides that, obviously its crowd control benefits are great, and it has even more synergies with the rest of her kit that I will cover later as well. Strangledome, her 4th ability, is also a fantastic tool for many things. Casting it has Khora create half of a Pentakis icosahedron, otherwise referred to as a dome, which can suspend up to 26 enemies at once in its chains. While chained up, enemies will take IPS damage and also take 200% more damage from all weapons and abilities except for Whipclaw. Additionally, enemies that are strung up have a higher threat level. Threat levels in Warframe determine the priority enemies take when choosing targets to attack. So standing in your dome while enemies are strung up will have targets in the outside shoot them, which does deal damage, and also not focus you, as said strung up enemies have a higher threat level. Finally, we come to Khora's Whipclaw, her pseudo-exalt, and also arguably her strongest ability, but the most complicated. While this won't be a full statistic guide, as I have one releasing very soon that does encompass every frame that has a pseudo-exalt, I will cover the basics here. You cannot mod Whipclaw directly, so you must mod it by equipping the desired mods on your currently equipped melee weapon. This melee weapon can be any melee, as the stats of the melee weapon do not matter at all, as Whipclaw only inherits the mods used because it has its own individual stats. The only ones that you cannot use are the Zorus, Tenelivia, or Grigori, as even though they have infinite combo, it auto resets when using any exalted weapon, for balancing purposes I assume. Whipclaw's damage is of course affected by mods used, but also ability strength and the combo count system. Starting at 2x combo, you gain 25% more damage per counter increase. This means that at 12x combo, you get 275% more damage for the whip, which is a massive boost, so you always want to build up combo on Whipclaw for maximum damage. Said damage is also evenly split between all IPS stats and accounts for 300 base damage. Casting the ability has her crack her whip towards your reticle before exploding in a 5-meter radius at base, and it will also not stagger Khora. It also possesses some special synergies with her other 2 abilities. All targets under Ensnare's effects will take double damage from Whipclaw, including Acolytes. Also, striking an enemy strung up in her dome will redistribute that damage to all other strung up enemies at 50%. For the first Whipclaw build, we are going for a raw corrosive damage setup. This setup is incredibly good for the first couple hours of Steel Path and also does great against Acolytes, but it falls off later into Steel Path, which is where you would want to switch over to the second build that I will show later. Primed Pressure Point and Spoiled Strike give us base damage, which is one of Whipclaw's most desired stats. Primed Fever Strike and Shocking Touch also give us that corrosive damage, which is again the best for base to mid Steel Path. For our critical chance, we source it from Sacrificial Steel and Blood Rush. Sacrificial provides us with 220% with no prerequisites, while Blood Rush gives us a huge 440%, but requires you to be at 12x combo for that bonus. This is not that big of a deal though, because you already want to be at 12x combo for the extra 275% damage I mentioned earlier, and you won't be heavy attacking anyway since that's impossible with Whipclaw and you aren't using the melee weapon anyways. Finally, we source our critical damage from Organ Shatter and Gladiator Might, which gives us a 5x multiplier, while the set bonus of Gladiator Might gives us another 110% critical chance. With these bonuses added up, Whipclaw's stats are a 192% crit chance, still a 20% status chance, but we don't need to proc any status with this setup, and then we do get a 5x critical multiplier. The best weapon to use in this setup is the Praetos in my opinion, as its evolution perks make combo upkeep easy and also grant additional movement speed and velocity buffs. The Corrosive setup is what I would recommend to 95% of people, as most don't go past the point in Steel Path where it is necessary to use a slash focus setup, but if you plan on doing that, then here is what that setup would look like. Drop both of the Corrosive mods and instead swap them out for Buzzkill and Weeping Wounds. What Buzzkill does here is add to our slash weighting. Earlier, I mentioned that Whipclaw has its damage evenly distributed between Impact, Puncture, and Slash. This means that if you proc a status effect, there would be a 33% chance that it would be Slash, and the same goes for the other 2. Buzzkill offsets this balance in Slash's favor, and makes it more likely to proc over the other 2 status, bringing it from a 33% chance to around a 70% chance. Whipping Wounds gives us more status chance in the same way that Blood Rush increases crit chance. You gain 40% per combo count increase starting at 2x, giving you 440% at 12x. This takes the base 20% status all the way up to 108%, guaranteeing at least 1 status proc with an 8% chance for 2 at once. The Slash setup is incredibly stronger at higher levels as Slash dots ignore enemy armor and deal true damage, but for base Steel Path, the 1 second delay these dots have means that they do not die instantly, and it is also less effective against Acolytes. But because we do need to prime enemies to extend the length of our Lycath hunt, using a primer with heavier viral weighting will make these Slash ticks do significantly more damage. It is also more effective against Eximus units. Whichever build you use for your stat stick, the build on Khora stays the exact same, so let's look at that one. Starting off with arguably the most important mod for her, her Augment Accumulating Whipclaw. This augment provides her with a stacking damage bonus that procs when hitting 3 or more enemies at once with the whip itself and maxes out at 350%. What's special and very good about this augment is how its damage is applied to the whip. Whipclaw's damage scales off of ability strength, mods, and combo. This damage bonus is additive to the one provided by ability strength, which means that running negative or low strength is not an issue for Khora, as you have diminishing returns when modding for both, and she is already tight on mod space anyways. So because strength is not important for her, we can make easy use of Overextended and Augur Reach to give us 200% range. 200% is the cap on range for her Whipclaw's explosion at its point of contact, but a higher range stat will scale her other abilities, but there isn't room for that here. The reason we are using Augur Reach instead of Stretch is because when paired up with Brief Respite and 2 more Augur mods on the pistol, which is the epitaph for today, we can shield gate at 45 efficiency, so obviously Blind Rage also needs to be used here. Equilibrium is also a necessity on the build because it is what allows us to convert all the health orbs dropped by Whipclaw and Lycath into energy, giving us a 110% conversion rate. To pick up these health orbs at max health, we use the Synth Fiber mod on both of her companions because yes, Khora can have 2 at once, for Venari and in this case a Panzer Vulpaphyla. This is a zero form of Venari setup because the last 2 mod slots don't have anything useful that can be put into them. Interestingly, Primed Animal Instinct will stack with itself also equipped on the Panzer, but the previously mentioned Synth Fiber mod is necessary to pick up health orbs and also increases companion armor, Tech Assault will give it a 60% chance to ignore lethal damage and become immune for 4 seconds, while Tech Enhance increases the immunity duration by 30%. Pack Leader gives your companion Lifesteal Link on melee damage, and Whipclaw counts as a melee, which means that every whip you do will be maxing out your Venari's health as it does an excessive amount of damage. The Panzer is built the same for the same reasons, except Tech Enhance is dropped for Synth Deconstruct, which makes enemies damaged by the Panzer have a chance to drop a health orb, which happens a lot because the Viral Quills mod functions very similarly to Saren and her spores, giving every enemy in a huge area viral procs and a chance to drop a health orb, which will then be converted into energy by Equilibrium. Panzer Devolution also makes it immortal. If it even dies somehow, it will auto-revive itself the same way that Venari does. Moving back to Khora now, Rolling Guard grants us iframes, which are great to deal with problematic Eximus units and also cleanse status effects. Primed Continuity grants us 55% more duration, making the dome last just above 30 seconds, and does the same for Lycath, although you should be extending it anyways. For Ensnare, the extra duration makes the delay between casting and pulling in enemies slightly shorter, while of course increasing the amount of time it stays active. Normally, you'll be instantly killing the enemies though, so the originally ensnared target won't live that long as they also take double damage from the whip. For the last mod slot, you have 2 choices. The first is to use Primed Flow. While you generate an incredible amount of energy on this build, Flow is useful for those moments where you either get unlucky with drops or are just starting the mission and need to get the rotation going. The other option is to use her 4th ability augment, Pilfering Strangledome, which makes enemies strung up in the dome have a 65% chance of dropping additional loot. If you do decide to go with the augment, then I would say it is 100% necessary to use Azure Archon Shards on her for energy max. Currently, I have 2 Taus for a total of 150 more energy on her, but 3 normals will work as well. If not using the augment, then that is unneeded, but I do as it makes her have top damage, top crowd control, and also get extra loot. So much so that in 6 minutes, I got 20 Argon Crystals in a single Mott survival. Now we can talk Arcanes. Energize is actually not needed on this build, regardless of what you decide for energy max, so it keeps one of your slots open. The other slot should 100% be Arcane Fury, as 180% more base damage is incredibly valuable, and it will always be active when playing her. The other slot is more debatable. Personally, I use Arcane Eruption as at max rank, picking up an energy orb will knock down all enemies within 30 meters. This does not apply to health orbs, but you do generate enough true energy orbs, especially with Pilfering Strangledome, to make this arcane useful. You could swap this out for whatever you want, but to be honest, there's not much else here that is of use to her. And as usual, the Exilus slot is Handspring if you don't have Prime Sure-Footed, which if you do, you should use. But that is going to be the Khora build, everyone. Whether you choose Raw Corrosive or Slash, she is one of the strongest and best frames in the entire game, pretty undisputably. But she can get even better, which is where I introduce Riven mods for her stat stick. For Rivens in Khora's case, first you want base melee damage, then critical damage, and then critical chance. For free negatives, which means negatives that do not affect your Whipclaw, take any of these. Faction damage, attack speed, range, finisher damage, impact or puncture, crit chance on slide, status duration, and finisher damage. Any other stats will be fine, but again, you're aiming for that crit damage, melee damage, and crit chance roll. On the Corrosive build, I would just drop Spoiled Strike for the Riven, and the same goes for the Slash build. Drop either Spoiled or Carnus Mandible, whichever one you chose. The primer that I use for extending Lycath's Hunt is a Sato built purely for status, as we use Whipclaw to kill everything anyways. Having the Dexterity Arcanes equipped on both primary and secondary makes your combo duration much comfier as well. Still though, you might want to use Naramon for 2 traits. Power Spike makes your combo decay by 5 instead of losing it all at once, which is useful, but because Whipclaw can build combo, once you get it rolling, there isn't really much of a threat to lose it. The main reason I do is because of the trait Opening Slam. Opening Slam gives you double combo count gain when performing a slam melee out of Operator, making it much easier to build combo on my admittedly slow stat stick. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this video and any questions you have, and make sure to keep an eye out for my full stat stick for all frames explanation coming very soon. Now for some talk about the 10k subs giveaway. Kai merch is coming. Yes, I am actually going to be doing some merch. That is a crazy thing to say. Honestly, very exciting though. While I have not finalized the designs, I plan to have them ready soon enough, and will share them with you guys as soon as possible over in my Discord, so you can go join that at the link in the description down below. It being a giveaway means that you will just have to win and you will get it shipped to you, all of the costs taken care of. You do need to be in the United States though, sorry about that, but more details to come soon as to how you can enter. While that is all very exciting, I hope that this video was informative and helped you, and I will see all of you guys in the next one. Peace!